So going through your journey for people out there that are maybe maybe they just got out of a program, Teen Challenge, a state program, or they're just trying to get free or whatever they're trying to do. What about your life ain't been all 78 and sunny, right? You know what I mean? Like, and I say that it ain't been perfect, right? What are some ways you've coped with not going back out to the way that Smiley had handled things before?
Yeah, that's a good question. The biggest thing for me has been surrounding myself with accountability.
That's it.
And when I see people come back to the program again, what do they always say? Oh, I isolated, I drifted away.
Yeah, they didn't have the covering, right?
Right. And so you're not, 15 years sober, 2 years sober. I'm not strong enough to stay sober on my own, and we're not designed for that.
Right.
And so I was a very stubborn, self-willed, I know it all person.
Me too.
And something in the program changed that, where I'm going to seek the counsel and advice and protection of others.
Right.
That's right.
I'm going to have mentors in my life. I'm going to have brothers and sisters.
Right. Not yes men.
Right.
Yeah.
Who will speak truth to me. And so that was the biggest thing. As far as like what's happened or gone inside of me, the sobriety, the not using, I feel like that thing was just kind of taken away.
Right.
I haven't had that urge.
Right.
But that just uncovers like all the
real stuff,
the stuff that you need to work on, the insecurities, the selfishness, the anxiousness. I mean, there's some of the thinking that still
Stinking
occurs.
thinking. But it is.
But you recognize it, and process it differently. But even my job at Teen Challenge, I viewed that as accountability.
Yeah.
Like I'm not,
it is.
Absolutely.
It is. Yeah.
What's so crazy is on my way to work, like 2 blocks from my office, is the sober house that I wrote that song about. I can look up there and remember.
It takes you back.
Takes me back. It doesn't make me feel sad, or it gives me
sometimes
thanks.
It makes you feel thankful.
Like every day.
Gratitude.
I can just look up there and say, by the grace of God, go I.
Yeah.
So that's the same thing with us. Like sometimes we'll come across a picture or something, and there's a picture of us when we were, when I had the ankle monitor on. Jaxson, remember that? Like, I had a house. I couldn't go to my house because we had a felony stop. Crazy, went to jail, had an ankle monitor on. I wasn't allowed to go home, so we rented a whole nother place. And then Jahnna's out there with me. She's not even supposed to be around me, and the kids are out there. They don't know. They're too young, to know. But I seen a picture of us standing, and Jahnna's really skinny. You know what I mean? You could tell. And I was not skinny for me, but you could tell I didn't look healthy. I was the fattest cocaine addict there was. I don't get that, but guess I would do a bunch of cocaine and eat. I don't know, but you could tell we wasn't healthy. And I remember seeing that picture and then see a picture of us now, like somebody said the other day, and what you did too. You haven't aged at all. It's like you went backwards, bro.
Yeah.
And somebody said to us the other day, Diamond said, shout out Diamond. She was like, I feel like you, or no, was it Rachel Ayler?
It was Rachel
Ayler. Shout out
to
Rachel and Nick. Rachel goes, I feel like you guys are getting younger.
Yeah.
Like from what you look like, and I go, that's just Jesus' grace and mercy in our life.
100%.
But I remember looking at that picture and I didn't get sad. It made me thankful for where our marriage is and where we came from, and we could give people hope.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it's not like Smiley sitting on here going, man, I've got this all figured out and I've been a Teen Challenge.
No.
You're still going through it.
Yeah.
But if you can do it, anybody can do it. We're not on here saying, oh, we're the best. We do this because if we can do it, anybody can do it. And if we can help some young couple that's got a blended family that comes from a drug background and insecure and tell them some cheat codes the way we do it, why wouldn't we do it?
Absolutely.
Right? You can go click on a podcast that'll talk about drinking and doing craziness all day long and just talk about nonsense. Why wouldn't we get on here and use a platform to talk, right? I mean, our music and doing this. And so we're glad you came down here with us.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Excited.
I mean, Jackson's been excited all week, haven't you, Jaxson?
Oh, Elijah, he cannot
and Elijah
wait
can't wait to see. He's like, he told me before he left the school, he's like, tell Smiley I said hi and I'll see him later. You know what I mean? But and Nevaeh too. Nevaeh's like, and Nevaeh works and goes to school, so we don't see her as much because she's like, oh wait, what? Smiley's here?
Smiley's
here?
Yeah.
He's in town? I'm like, yeah, we told you 5 times. She goes, oh. And so she's going to try to get off work to come because she's supposed to work that night. But, So what's the plan, Smiley Kaul, man? Like what are you music wise? Like what's going? Tell us about 2025, man. Like what are we doing?
Yeah, that's it's been 3 years since Extreme Tour, and I haven't. What I put out on the streaming sites and stuff, they were just kind of demos, me in the garage with a $100
but they were awesome.
Dude,
every
but
time one would
them,
come out, Jaxson and I were like, listen.
Yeah, but the plans. I mean, there's been a lot of like just in the dark or sort of like trying to figure out what's next. I know for one of the reasons we connect is because we know our music is meant to tell a story. Like our struggles and our victories are not our own.
It's hope music.
And it's hope for others. And I think the challenge has been, well, in what context?
Yes.
Do I go back and play clubs? Do I go back and do extreme tours?
Yeah, where do you want me, God? Right?
And so just in the last year, God's just really sat me down and just like, get the joy of just making music again.
Right.
Wow.
All those expectations, all these external things that I have to do it for someone else.
Right.
Get that childhood joy of just creating. So I've built a little studio in my garage.
There you go.
That's awesome.
And I've just been learning, relearning and learning stuff. And I think by the spring, I'll have a full-length album out.
To put out. That's cool, man.
Yeah. And so, but still like in process, like not really, there's a lot of trust that goes into creating.
Yeah.
And,
That's good.
Yeah. Because there's nothing there and you're going to make something.
Yeah.
And
That's
then,
good. Son.
That is really good.
That was
I like
that
that.
was some
That was some knowledge.
Yeah.
some knowledge
free.
from Smiley Kaul, baby. Knowledge from Smiley Kaul.
well, and there's some audacity to it too.
Right.
Like, you're going to make something.
Yeah. Who
Like,
are you? What are you gonna do?
Right.
Yeah.
But it's in you. You have
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when I was using and making music,
Right.
it was therapeutic.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And there was never this desire to like make it in the biz, so to
Right.
speak.
Right.
But now, this journey has been sort of like, well, I love to do it.
Right.
It's sort of like my kids when they draw a picture and they want to show you. So there's that show me, like, look what I made.
Right,
Sort of
right.
stuff.
Yeah. That's a good analogy.
That's
Right.
kind of what it is for
It
us
is for
personally.
you. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then there's also like, no, you have a story of hope
People need it.
that people
Redemption.
need.
Yeah.
That's right.
Like I remember playing a song at the homeless shelter somewhere, and I have this line about no one comes around, and I heard this lady say, "I know it." Like
Right.
they had been there.
Yeah.
They know that no one's
They can feel
calling
it.
me.
Right.
So that there's these little instances in our music that just resonates with people.
Right. With people. Yeah.
And I think that need for truth and for hope that maybe isn't in most of the music we hear is important. It's not that we're going to play to stadiums or anything.
Or you might.
Yeah.
Or you might.
Yeah, but that's
But
not
if
why
not,
you do it.
yeah.
It's the same thing with the podcast and music for us. When I quit caring about how many views there were, I quit
Right.
caring how many subscribers there were. I quit caring if people accepted me. Sometimes we're like the redhead stepchild in Christian rap music. I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
Though.
Yeah.
We
We
are.
are.
Like
For
they
sure.
know we'll shake it up. But do we? Well, he's a little rough around there. He's a loose cannon. We don't know what he might, or we don't fit the bill. You know
Yeah.
what I mean, or whatever. And when I quit caring about that, I'm like this. When we started doing the podcast, I said, "Hey, listen, we're going to tell our story because somebody needs to hear it."
Right.
Right. And when you get out of the way like that, you're like,
Get
"Hey,
out of the way. Yeah.
then God can do what He's going to do."
Right.
And we're in a time where there might be a kid who needs to hear Smiley say, "Hey man, you got what you just said about creativity in there. It's in there,
awesome.
and we had to Jaxson might need to hear that to start doing his.
You have to do it.
You know what I mean? Just to enough to say, hey, man, I can do this too, and I have to do it, right? And so the world needs Smiley Kaul,
Yeah.
right? You gotta. There's gonna be an era of people that can relate to you and that like that music and is like, I hear it. I know what you're saying, right?
sure.
And I know how much it changed my kid's life or
Yeah.
our life or so in 2025, man, if I can tell you anything as your brother and as your buddy and from the beginning, don't sell yourself short.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I've been around a lot of musicians. I've been around people who sing and play, and there's a lot of carbon copies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I mean is, we're in hip hop a lot. Everybody sounds the same. You know what I mean? Like I got a song coming out called Outlaw, but it's like, same beat, same thing, rinse and repeat, everything the same. But there's only one Smiley and you're original.
Right.
And that's why you feel sometimes am I supposed to be here?
Right.
Yeah.
Are they getting this?
Question
Yeah.
yourself.
And there was
Yeah.
more, and I sat back there. I mean, I can think of 2 instances at the skateboard camp, or the skateboard camp. They had us in a camp at the skateboard park where you were singing, and a dude was just laying back, a skateboard dude. He's like, "Yeah, man, I like this vibe," or whatever
Yeah,
he
you
said.
saw that a
He was just
lot.
feeling it, bro. Like and you're just singing, and we're like, "Yeah, man." Like,
Because it's almost like
Yeah.
it's soothing.
yeah,
You know, it's soothing.
it's
to
like
your
come take a
soul,
ride with
right?
me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So. If I can say anything 2025, we need more Smiley Kaul,
Right.
man.
Yeah, I'm excited to get
know.
some new stuff
Yeah.
out and just
Yeah.
to
To
see
do
where
it.
it's at. Maybe bring some musicians on
Yeah.
along with me.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things that's so interesting is that your uniqueness. There's a psalm that talks about how God created us, and it talks about how He knit us together,
Right,
Yeah.
right.
and it speaks
In
to
your
this
mother's
sort of
womb.
like carefulness and careful design that God had given each of us individually.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where the thief of joy is, the comparison and stuff like that. You just got to let that stuff go.
Yeah.
You're
The
absolutely
ego.
right. The comparing.
The comparisons, the only person you're in competition with is a man in the mirror.
Right.
Right. Really.
Yeah,
I mean, who, being better than you was yesterday. And I always tell, my main thing is I want to be the best David I can be.
Right.
The best serving God, be a man of God, and be her hero and my kid's hero.
Yeah,
Everybody
that's where
else,
we
they
start.
can. We were talking about comments. We get some crazy comments,
Yeah.
man. People say
is
all
almost
kinds of
funny,
things, and
right,
it's, a
Jax?
lot of the
Sometimes we're
comments
like,
are from
I know.
people that aren't brave enough
Oh, here
to
they
do
come.
nothing.
No.
Yeah.
There come. I like them. Send them on, buddy. But a lot of the comments are from people that are scared to do anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to do something, and they're going to say this. But, at the end of the day, as long as Smiley's being the best Smiley, the man of God, husband, father, you want, wanting your kids to grow up in music.
Right.
Music changes things. If music wasn't powerful, do you think they would spend so much money in advertising at the Super Bowl?
Right.
You know it.
$7
sure.
million
Think about it. Think of how important music is. You can go like this. You can go into a place right now. One time I've used this analogy, and I was in a mall. We were in the mall, and that song, "I Wanna Sex You Up," TikTok, you don't stop. Right? It was "Color Me Bad."
Color Me
back in the
Bad.
'90s or
Remember
whatever.
Color Me Bad?
So what I say this
Those
is
are
that.
a bunch of white guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a couple black dudes. But
Good.
the main singer was the
Yep.
white guy,
Yeah.
and
Anyway,
a curly headed guy that
doesn't-
kind of looked like
curly-headed guy,
yeah.
yeah.
I remember. So that song played. Do you know 3 days later I was in the shower and I was
Singing
like,
that.
I want. That's how powerful music is, right? That's how And whenever you're listening to music or you're telling a story, you're getting whatever that person's saying,
For sure.
whatever that person's feeling. But if not, they wouldn't be like, think of commercials. I'm a pepper, you're a pepper, wouldn't you? It sticks in your head.
Pepper.
Music
Yeah.
sticks with you, right?
does.
So when you sing those songs and that's an outlet, you gotta do it, and you gotta have your family do it. A song, we can play a song and while we're driving and everybody start laughing and singing it, or I can play a song that'll take me back thinking of my dad and it can make me sad,
Right.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or whatever the case is.
Yep.
That's how powerful is it. So if we can tell these stories of hope, and that's all they are, they're stories of hope.
Yeah.
Not that we had it all figured out. Some of the stories of hope is, hey, Jahnna's got a rap song that says, I used to eat Xanny bars, nod off in wreck cars.
Now I spit bars, not shooting black tar.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like just a clever little rap song. No, that's true. She nodded off and wrecked my car.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be funny, but what we're saying is, but not no more. Now we spit hope and we tell about it. We came for that. We know where you're at, but this is where you can be. And that's all your songs, like the halfway house, right?
Yeah. I can still
My
sing
Limits,
that song and still identify
Put
with
you
that.
right there.
That's right.
And or still use a lyric from years ago and understand I'm still going through that same struggle or process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's not this plateau we reach.
No.
Where we're done.
Keep going, man.
Yeah. And so to be able to identify that I'm still in process. Yeah, we can be thankful that we're sober now
Yeah.
and we're still sort of like working stuff out.
We
Yeah.
grow.
Fear
A
and
work in
trembling.
progress,
We
right?
go. Well, and the thing too is we said this coming up. When you go redo your driver's test, they make you take a test over again. And the driver once you especially as you're getting older, to make sure you still got your skills.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times spiritual, I got to take a driver's test.
Right.
Like I thought, going back to the scar thing, there's things I thought I overcome, and I'll be totally, like the last couple weeks, Jahnna told me, David, and even I had to apologize to my son because there were some situations that happened and I lost my temper and didn't handle it like a good father. Said things I shouldn't have said and acted out in anger where I had to apologize to him. Hey, buddy, I didn't handle that right. It'll make me cry. I'm sorry or whatever. And same thing with Jahnna. Jahnna was like, David, you're letting anger. What's going on? You're not going to talk to me like that. And I'm like, you know what it is? 2025 didn't start off the way I thought. I had all these plans and goals.
Yeah.
Work stress, vehicle stress, business stress, health stress, all these things were going on and I was handling it. I wasn't giving it to God.
Yeah.
I had cut down my prayer time and Bible time in the morning because I was tired. I was stressed. I'm like, I'll sleep in another 10 minutes and then get up. We're used to, I get up and that's how I start my day. I was on, right? All these, like music, like say it's a muscle, you got to do your spiritual fitness.
You do.
And if you get off of it, you'll realize that you don't have it figured out real fast, right? And so that's 2025. I had to go, wait, here's the hope guy.
Right.
Relentless hope guy. Dave's always hope and marriage and you're doing this but isn't that a lot? That's why you see these people fall a lot of times because there's no way anybody wakes up in the morning and their feet don't touch the ground.
Right.
And they're like, Holy Spirit. They're like, oh, my back hurts. Shut up in there. The dog's eating the bone. Jaxson, turn the light off, boy, or whatever, right? Nene-Nane's got another flat tire, $150 later. Whatever the case is, it's going through this journey is to recognize that and correct it real fast, right?
Yes.
Used to, let's say arguing, healthy conflict in a marriage is good. That's how things get solved.
Yeah.
Right.
If she can't tell me, hey, this is bothering me and not pay a price for it and us get it to it, then it'll end up blowing up and be a bad thing, right? And so we have to be able to change these things and recognize. Used to, we'd get in an argument. There's arguments went on for 2 weeks. And then we ain't really talked about it. And then all of a sudden the fight starts again. I mean, a lot of people.
Why? Because we didn't deal with it.
We didn't deal with it, and we didn't get to the root of it and work with it. Being able to recognize that and say, "Whoa, Dave, you've just lived a life like you used to. You're like this whole week. You're violent. You're like not beating anybody up, but wanting to in traffic." I think if anybody lies, oh, Holy Spirit. No, I wasn't praying Holy Spirit. I prayed.
Right.
We got to have a prayer service
Oh,
when we
yeah.
get done a healing service.
But don't you think that
means shut
that
up,
shows
Smiley.
us? Well, that shows us how much we need Him, right? That shows us that we're depending on our own strength. We're not depending on Jesus' strength.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is the whole bottom line. This is us acting out as if we can change this, or we can turn around and get back to the basics.
Yeah.
Jesus, I need you to come and intervene here because I'm messing this up.
One of the
right?
best things that happened one of the best things that I can take from 15 years of addiction is
Yeah.
the absolute certainty of my own inability
Yeah.
to do any good
Nothing.
apart
Come
from
on.
God.
Yeah,
Like
I'm gonna mess it up.
I will mess
Every
it
time.
up.
Dude,
Every
you give me
time.
the reins, it's over, bro.
Right.
You know how many
Every
times
time.
I've tried to take
And
over?
I still kind of take over. Yeah.
We all
Yeah.
do. As soon as the
Human
hurricane
nature.
happened, you know what I learned through the hurricane? David, there's only one way you do it. It's got to be God. Because I'm like, who do I know? I don't care how much money you had, how many people you know. There wasn't no electricity. There wasn't nowhere to live. There was only one person that could do it, and a bean. That was God, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't
Right.
David. And going back to, like you're saying, it's an everyday death sentence, bro.
Yes.
Every day is like, I'm like, man, dude, where is these feelings of anger coming from? I know why. I had things inside that was bothering me, but I wasn't saying them. I didn't want to say them to her. I don't want to bring this out.
But I knew it.
Yeah, she knew it because she knows me, and our marriage is in a different place. But what I'm saying is, what happens if I didn't get those out and talk to them and say, okay, whoa, we got to stop now, and I better get back on my quiet time and get back where I'm reading my Bible first, and or I'm getting back to listening to messages versus going to bed watching the latest crime story.
Right.
Yeah.
Not saying that there's anything wrong with that. I like watching crime stuff and how they solve stuff in detectives. That's not usually what you want to fall asleep watching because you're going to wake up and be anxious and think everybody's out to kill you. You know what I mean? It's better when you put on a message and fall asleep listening to Jimmy Evans talk about marriage.
Yeah. What's your diet?
Yeah.
What's your spiritual
What's
diet?
your YouTube feed like?
Right.
And I had to go through, and we were joking. Jahnna started putting on the dodo dogs and these little chimpanzees. The little chimpanzee.
You liked it, Jaxson.
No, he does.
You liked
but,
it.
But
I'm
then
not saying I don't.
I was having all this
liked it.
country rap beef war pop up that these people are doing, and then
Like, give me
this
something to
other
make me
thing, and I'm
smile.
like, "Where's my messages in my YouTube feed?"
Yeah, I got home yesterday and he had the YouTube on, and I was like, "It looks like you're fighting your YouTube back. No more animals or anything. See a lot more Jimmy Evans."
Yeah, but the thing is, that's how serious in my life it is because what you've learned probably in a short time, I'm an all or nothing dude.
Yeah.
Hey, we're tearing that stage down.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw them boxes in
do
there.
it.
When I'm
loading
tearing
that
it,
truck.
and we ain't playing around, right?
Right.
Hey, that's one thing. Me and Jason Spradley and her, we load a trailer now.
Right.
The
Caleb, yep.
Yeah, we're throwing them boxes in there. So I'm an all or nothing dude. So I can get like this real fast, and I recognize that about myself. So people go, "Well, why do you guys go to marriage conferences?" Because it's that serious to us.
Right.
Our marriage is that serious to us, where they're like, "You guys going to another marriage?" Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, we are.
Yeah.
We need
Absolutely.
that. We want to go. We want to put into that.
Right.
That's not saying if anybody doesn't that they're not got. I'm just saying what works for David and Jahnna. But serious.
Yeah.
But it's an everyday death sentence knowing that David, tighten up, buddy.
Right.
Tighten up. And having a wife that'll say, "Hey, I don't know what you're going through, but you ain't gonna talk to me like that."
Right.
You better get on the phone, talk to somebody else, a pastor, a friend. But you're not. Jahnna told me that the other day. She's like, "You're not talking to me like that."
Right.
Right.
And two, it's being able to find teachable moments in that because unfortunately we are all human, you know, and we fall short every day. But just telling our kids, "Hey, I'm sorry, I failed you. I should not have yelled at you. I should not have said that."
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's so important.
It is, and that's what we're all living and growing, right?
Yeah.
When I brought him home from the hospital, I'm like, "Where you plug this thing in at?" Whoa, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's no things because in having older kids, and I'm getting ready to be a peepaw again. My oldest daughter is getting ready to have a baby girl. It's going to be our first grand baby girl.
Yes.
I got two grand boys, but there's no rule book. And you're learning this as a father. Your kids are just now getting older.
Yeah.
Jaxson, when he was 3, I could say, "Hey, buddy, put on these toe mater shoes and you're getting your hair."
Remember his little
he had little
Crocs?
toe mater Crocs, and I took him and
was
I
so
told him how
cute.
he was going to get his hair cut.
Yeah.
Because he was 3, buddy, you're going to get this flat top. You're going to get this. Jaxson wants to grow his hair long. Jaxson wants to wear his pants different. It starts changing, you know what I mean? And different. He's got, his own personality, and he's going through things, and he's growing up. And trying to realize that he's just a short-term assignment, and all my kids are right. All of
Your steward.
and my older kids, I blew it. I got a daughter who just got married, and guess who didn't get invited to the wedding? Me. But I have to take that on the chin. I could sit here and give you 20 reasons why her mom kept me out of her life, or I could say, "Oh well, but you don't The facts was I wasn't a good father. I wasn't a good person. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
Don't matter what all the other stuff was. And that's the price you pay when you make choices out of selfishness, or you follow the way that the devil leads you and you just go with it. But, with Jaxson, Nevaeh, and Elijah, they're in my home. I know that Jackson's fit. It seems like the other day he was 12 on the Extreme Tour. Now he's going to be driving, right? You know what I mean? Like the other day. Now he's older. Pretty soon he'll be 18. Pretty soon he'll be 22. And so I've only got this amount of time before he goes out. I got to get him ready. And I told him the other day, which he knows. I said, "Buddy, you're getting offline a little bit. And I ain't your buddy. I'm your dad. Don't get me wrong. We laugh and joke. He's my buddy." But I'm here to teach you, because you're going to be on your own someday, and you're going to look back and go, "Oh, whoa, Dad wasn't lying when his back was hurting. He had to pay the light bill," right? This is real life stuff. So again, I think it's growing, being teachable, and being the best we can be.
Right. I want to be a better husband now than I was 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
10 years ago.
Absolutely.
Same with Dad. But the understanding that we're not going to do it perfectly. We're going to have to, as you say, death sentence to self,
Yeah.
which is so countercultural.
Yeah.
Like self
yeah.
is self
Yeah.
rules.
Give it to me. I
Yeah.
like it.
So my ego,
It's all
my
about me.
pride, where we have to say, man, I screwed up here. Or
Yeah.
I didn't do perfect.
Yeah.
And that's what we learn in recovery. Like you got to move on and grow.
Yeah.
And I will not be the perfect dad to my kids.
No.
I'm sure I've snapped off at them
Yeah,
more times
we
than
all
I'd like
have,
to. And just understanding that like I haven't parented before.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'll be better at it, as in playing guitar or rapping, as I
Right.
practice and do it more.
The more you
Yeah.
do it.
But without that understanding that grace to be
Yeah.
like we
Grace.
have to give ourselves freedom to make
That's what I'm
mistakes.
trying to work on because, man,
Yeah.
I'm hard on
Absolutely.
myself.
Right.
Everybody might not see it, but it's like I'll be out in the garage, like sometimes
you and me
sobbing,
both.
bro. Like, man, I can't believe I said that to him. Or I shouldn't have. Gosh, why am I so hard on her? She makes most women look silly, right? You know what I mean? And and it's giving yourself that grace
Yeah.
and saying, okay, because I could give you grace.
Yeah.
If you did something, I'd be like, well, hey, Will, you're trying the best you can, brother. What they want, man? It was cold that day. You were upset.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're whatever. I can make thing. But me, I'm like, dude, you need to tighten up. You suck, bro. You know what I mean? Like you're supposed to be the hope guy. Like and I've learned to where no, Jesus is the hope. I'm just a guy who's like I
Just
don't got this
echoing it.
figured out,
Yeah,
bro. Like you know what I
exactly.
mean? I'm going through it just like everybody else, you know. And that's why when I was telling you earlier, we tell people if you're tuning in to a perfect Christian podcast of people who got it all figured out, this is the wrong place.
Right.
But if you're somebody going through something and you're growing here and doing this and some misfits that if we can do it, anybody can. Now you're in the right place,
Yeah.
and you get some Jesus. And some days you might get a real life story that you be like, oh, wait a minute. You know what I mean? I did. They going through that too. So am
Yeah,
I.
right.
And I've learned that's what people really cling to because nobody's got it figured out.
No,
No.
we don't.
No.
One of the best things we did is do counseling early in marriage.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Like-
Changed our
Man.
life, bro.
Yeah. And we've considered it a few times, and it's opened the door because it was
Yeah.
like there's no taboo about it.
No.
There's something to be ashamed
No.
of.
Well, people make it about. They'll spend thousands of $1,000s on a wedding, but go to counseling. I remember when we were going to counseling, but we were going to a marriage class on Wednesday night, another thing on Friday, and then paying $100 twice a week to go to counseling.
Yeah.
You know how many people go, you're doing what?
And
You're
it was
paying
the
them
best
what?
thing for
And
us.
Yeah.
if I
What
wouldn't have
an
did that,
investment.
and the same thing, people go, like we went to Focus on the Family where you go stay there. And it's got
yeah.
different, you stay there for
was so
amazing
cool.
place, bro. You know, you just, and it's called, there's different ones, taking your marriage to great, communication, intimacy. People are like, well, you guys got a good marriage. I said, well, our marriage ain't perfect,
We're gonna
but we're
keep it
going
good.
there to get some tips on how to go to the next level.
Yes.
We go to Jimmy Evans' XO marriage. Why? Because we want to take our marriage to the next level.
Because you can always learn.
Yes.
Always.
I just learned
You don't ever have
something
to stop.
last week. My work has us doing all these personality tests, so we get to know each other better and
Yeah,
work with
I
each
love
other better.
those. Yes.
And whenever my wife and I would get into an argument, I would always view it as like we're just having a conversation.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out that I view conflict as just a means to resolve stuff, and it's not a bad thing.
Right,
Whereas
no.
lots of people view conflict as something terrible. So
Yes.
we're arguing. And so just to learn, have that little understanding is like my wife might view this discussion as an
Absolutely.
argument where I'm just like trying to resolve something.
Yeah,
So I need to
resolution.
approach how I talk differently.
Right.
And so that teachableness, we talk about how to be teachable. And even though we're in our 40 dads and stuff, like I need to be humble and teachable here.
Yeah.
And like, why don't you think like I do? Well, you're a different person.
Yeah.
Like,
Especially women and men.
right.
Oh.
We're very different creatures.
Yeah, well,
we were talking about that earlier.
It's like you thinking, I'm like, geez, that's the most weirdest thing I ever heard in my life. And why would she think like that? And she's thinking like,
What is
I'm
wrong
like,
with
the
him?
girl's hot, but it's weird. You know what I mean? Like, or whatever. And she's thinking, I've never met anybody who looks at something the way he looks at it. He's nuts, right? Because we're two different people.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it. You can't expect a woman to be like you and a man to be, you know, and in any relationship, or me and you, if we're going to approach something different. And that's the part about relationships when you set back, like something we had to learn in our marriage and relationship was empathy. I have to put myself that Jahnna's family Jahnna grew up different than me in certain areas, right?
Vice
Yeah,
versa.
family of origin.
Yeah,
Very
and
different.
so she's bringing what she learned in. I'm bringing what I learned in. Plus, we both made some crazy decisions married before we got in.
Yeah.
Right. So we're like, hey, wait, we're going to handle this. And so what I had to learn was And I'm learning this right now with my employees, with my kids, with my wife, with whatever I do. Not everybody does stuff the way David does.
Right.
And don't get me wrong.
They should.
Yeah, well,
That's what I would say.
they're very silly that they
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
I know too.
But
I
no,
totally get that.
and there's some great qualities I have, bro. I can get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, no alarm clock.
Yeah.
I can double hustle. You know, I remember somebody goes, "How'd you get this?" I go, "I get up 4 hours before you do. I go to bed 4 hours after you are," because that's the way. And when I show up to work, I work different than a lot of
He
dudes.
is ready to go.
I work. I make people look silly sometimes, and I can't understand logical. But I grew up where my real father, you know, I always make a joke that I thought my first name was Hey Dumb for the first 10 years of my life because hey, well, but he was hard in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways he wasn't. My granddaddy's the same way. He's just a logical person. Well, why would you not back that in there? Right? You know,
Right.
like, so I was taught at a young
Of course
age.
you do it that way.
Yeah, I was taught at a young age, buddy, don't be the fool. You ain't got to be, you know, and so when I go to work, I approach things. Why wouldn't I carry all this in here? Why am I going to make 9 trips back?
Yeah, you are
Why
very
am I
logical.
Gonna, and people don't understand, like, he did it this fast. I'm just logic. When I can load a trailer by logically looking at it. Well, why wouldn't we not everybody's gifted that way, right? And sometimes there's some things that I don't even think of that she thinks of that saves us a lot of trouble, right? In the long run. So what I'm trying to practice is empathy, is say, not everybody does things your way, and not everything you do is the right way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So now, what asset can these people be? Because what happens is when you want everybody to do everything your right way, it sets you up for disappointment because they're never going to do the things the way you do. And it doesn't mean, yeah, you might have some good ways to do stuff, but it doesn't mean their ways aren't good either. And I'm trying to, and I learned that in our marriage. Like, well, no, we need to talk about this right now. Well, no, you need to leave me alone and we'll talk about this later. Well, then I learned
Time out.
if I leave it alone and come back, we get a lot of things solved versus solved. I'm a guy who goes, well, why wouldn't we just solve it right now?
Right.
And let's get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Well, because she's not ready to talk about that right. And she, you know what I mean? And so these are all things that if you go to a marriage conference, no, I'm just kidding. But counseling, this is all things
Beautiful
we
thing.
learned in counseling.
Mm-hmm.
And any person, like, it's funny that if you said that to a majority of people, we're thinking about going to counseling again. Well, Will, you're a great guy. Your wife's an amazing lady. You got great kids. Why would you go? Well, because trying to avoid this, that, or there's
I'm a
some
broken
things.
person.
Yeah, there's some
Still.
things,
Absolutely.
and I said this on the way here. There's things from when we first got together till now that we're both different people about. Because people grow, people change, bodies change, emotions change, circumstances change.
Yep.
Well, then your marriage is changing. And so you sometimes have to, I don't know where the girl that when I walked in and I said, come on, baby, it's going down on the wash machine today. Right? Sorry, son.
Sorry,
Jaxson. I forgot my son was here.
He's like, wow.
He knows what, but I'm just saying when you're married, but when you go, things change in life and people get older, you got to learn to adapt and say, hey, we need to talk about and work through this situation or that situation.
What does that mean to be one flesh? It's not
Right.
not physically. It's to have be of the same mind.
Yep.
And have the same purpose.
Yep.
Yep.
Intimacy is not just, intimacy is being one in
Intimacy.
finances, being one in agreement. You know, we always say, well, how do you know that you're supposed to do it? Well, if Jahnna don't agree with it, do it, we ain't supposed to do it. Because if we both don't agree and Jesus didn't tell us, then just because David thinks it ain't right.
Yeah.
Until we're in agreement as one, then we go do it. you know?
Anybody with like any reservations about counseling, I'm not going to be an adamant proponent of the therapeutic community in entirety. I think there's a lot of things that aren't maybe of
On
sound
the up and up.
principles.
Right.
Yeah.
However, the best counselor I would say is not going to talk very much. They're going to be this sort of like objective intermediary to allow
Yes.
conversation between the two to happen.
Right.
And they will guide and they might question, but they're not soothsayers. They're not magicians who are
No.
like
No.
delving into your deepest, darkest secrets and finding the solution.
Right.
What happens is you leave these sessions or this counseling with sort of instructions.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, so I knew after counseling that, well, my wife and I communicate very differently.
Right.
And even though I know that intellectually, but I'm still having to work on it 10 years later.
Right.
Yeah.
Um,
yeah.
It's the same with so the work is still the investment
Right.
is up to you guys.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
up to us to invest in time together and surrendering to self and
all
bearing
that.
one each other's burdens.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
there's got to be, I'm sure there's stuff I do that annoys my
Oh,
wife.
I know there's stuff
I don't know
do that annoys my
specifically.
wife.
Yeah. She won't ever say it, but she just has to bear with that.
I'll say it.
Like,
She'll say it. No, but it's true though. What you're saying, it's just like anything. If somebody gives you a workout plan, you got to put the work in. That don't change you,
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Infomercials or whatever, you still got to go do the work, and that's the way it is. We're gonna bring it in. We could sit here and talk all day long. Tim Jarrett's got a gun. He's pointing at me over there. He's like, Dave, get out of my studio. You and your costumes. No, I'm playing. I'm giving a hard time.
Love Tim Jarrett.
But no, we love the 239 Live. Smiley,
place.
it's been awesome, bro.
Yes.
so thankful to have me.
So what are we doing this weekend?
So yeah, that's what we're getting to here to talk. We're gonna be at Winter Jam, in Lehigh Acres at Rise Christian Church,
Nice church.
50 Bell Boulevard. I believe in Lehigh Acres. It starts from 5 to 8. We're going to be doing our music. Smiley's going to be doing his
Yeah.
music. They got a snow slide. They got
They're bringing
snowball
in real
fights,
snow.
food trucks, all kinds of stuff going on. So come out and join us. We'll probably do some tag team stuff. We'll do some songs. Smiley will do some kind of get what we do. So you don't want to miss it. And Smiley, we can't thank you enough for coming here, bro.
Yes.
You're
You
welcome.
know, and
really appreciate
I'm
it.
like, I was like trying not to check on you like big brother all the time. I'm like, call me when you get in. He's like, nah,
where's he at
you'll
right
be
now?
all
Where's he at?
right.
Well, yeah, I told my wife this morning, I kind of understand why people were concerned about me. Because
Yeah.
that was a lot of driving.
That's a
Yeah,
lot.
man. And you're just like, oh, don't worry, I
is.
won't wake you
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
I'm driving through a snowstorm right now. Don't worry about it. I'm like,
flurries.
dude, you're coming from Minnesota.
Yeah.
It's snowing in
Yeah.
Florida.
Maybe not my best idea.
No.
But I made it.
Yeah, you did. I was like, you sure you don't want to fly, buddy? I could pick you up at 1:30. You know what I mean? I could be at the airport. Somebody's like, I'm going to cruise through. I'm in Chattanooga. I was like, hey, you still made pretty good time, though.
Yeah.
I did all right.
Especially through the weather that you were
Yeah.
driving.
But I don't recommend it for all the kids out there. Don't
No.
drive.
Jaxson, don't drive to your first gig.
Gosh.
And
It's a lot, right?
it was a lot.
Yeah.
So I had
It
a lot
is.
of people checking on me. I appreciate it.
Oh,
It's so
man.
great to be here.
No, it's just the beginning of the weekend. We get to spend some time with you, talk and chew it up. We couldn't get down here, and we thank 239 for opening up on today, or not opening up, but letting us come in and shoot today because we just was here the other day, so now we're back here again. And
We're
then
here a lot.
We're a lot when we come in.
Yeah,
You know what I
I
mean?
love
I
it.
got Tim throwing his back out, hanging up stuff, man.
Dave's got suitcases.
Diana's got a parka. She's freezing. She's over there fixing it up for us. No, but 239 Live, your story starts here.
Right.
It's where we do our podcast. We couldn't have had a better guest than Smiley and Jaxson in here.
Yeah,
with
Jaxson.
us. What do you got to say, Jaxson?
Not much, really. I'm just glad I could be here with Smiley and
Yeah.
you guys.
Yeah. You guys gonna do probably some jamming out on some
Yeah.
sure.
guitar
Yeah.
music
Definitely.
stuff and
Yeah.
good there. And so like, subscribe, share. We've got some big things coming. 2025. We're excited. And stay relentless, right, baby?
Right.
Peace.